Hello everyone and welcome back to the SteemTrail Gaming News. Today is the 3rd of May 2018. My name is Kralizec and I will be your host for the evening. Today we got 3 stories for you guys. First we're going to take a look at some South Korean Overwatch hack creators who got sentenced. Secondly, we're going to take a look at PlayerUnknowns Battlegrounds as they disable personal item trades. And last of all, we're going to stay with PUBG, but we're going to add Fortnite to the mix, as it seems that Fortnite on mobile is earning 5 times the amount of money that PUBG is earning. But let's go into Korea first. As you may know, last year, South Korea passed a law that essentially aims at people who create hacks and aimbots and wall hacks, you know, all the sort of things that is used to cheat in games. And earlier this year, 13 Overwatch offenders, people who create this kind of software for Overwatch, were arrested, and 2 of them have now received their sentence. This is according to a post from Blizzard Korea, and it seems Blizzard has worked with the Seoul National Police Agency Cybersecurity Department for about a year. Yeah, it took a long time. They were working together since January 2017, and the 2 guys who were sentenced, one of them was sentenced to 2 years of probations, and obviously if he violates that probation he will go into jail, and the other has been fined 10 million won, which estimates to around $9,300. So interestingly enough, I honestly believe the guy who went on probation got a harsher sentence, even though from what I read, most articles think otherwise. Most articles tend to think that, yeah, getting a $10,000 fine is a huge deal. But you need to remember, these hacks were being sold for money. Not usually huge money, not like $100, but like $10, $20 per piece. And that means that if 500 people, and I'm betting you more than 500 people bought each piece of the software, bought it, they made that money in that they had to pay in fines. So they likely made their share of money. And overall, I'm actually glad this is happening. Even though it's sort of a more gray zone because nobody's really getting physically hurt. But you can easily argue that it's the same thing with drugs in sports. But I honestly believe that there should be some sort of a gaming association that would work with all the major esport titles to find cheaters and punish the cheaters, because the cheaters need to get punished as well. Not only the people who create these hacks, but the cheaters need to get punished as well. And well, they usually do by bans and similar things. But you need to realize one thing. When it comes to esports and traditional sports, the banning is quite different. Let's say you could find out that you've been cheating as an athlete. As you know, you just do a 100 meters sprint. You get banned for like 5 years from competitive play. In esports, it's usually like, yeah, you can't play the next 4 matches, and the next 4 matches could be like next week. And obviously, that usually hurts the team, but I sort of wish it was the longer sentence, and instead of being at like a set number of matches, it was like a set number of weeks, months, and potentially even years if it was found out you cheated at large. Because that's the only real way to deter people from cheating in small or large capacities in video games. And I'm hoping that eventually some sort of a global esports organization will get created that will try to work around these issues and punish the cheaters as well. Okay, our second piece of news takes us into the land of PlayerUnknowns Battlegrounds, as PUBG has disabled personal item trades because people have started selling items using third-party resellers. And if you know anything about gaming, you're not really unfamiliar with this sort of thing, yes. This is essentially what happened with CSGO a few years back, and it was one of the few first instances of video games getting accused of gambling. Though there was sort of a different situation. There was, you could essentially take a skin you got in CSGO and bet it to maybe get some money, or maybe get a better skin that you could sell for more money. That was literally gambling, and nobody was arguing against that. But what you need to remember, PUBG uses the loot box system, which in my opinion is gambling. It's really hard to argue that it isn't. And essentially gambling on what item you get to hopefully sell it for a profit is just gambling. And I think this might be a good move by PUBG. Because even though it obviously will make some people unhappy because they can't give like a skin they already have to a friend that doesn't have it yet, it's still a better deal to make sure that, you know, third party don't get involved and introduce these sort of shady mechanics that got implemented in CSGO, because otherwise it could just be a huge problem. And obviously you can still use the Steam trading system to trade the items, because that hasn't been banned yet. Only, you know, like player-to-player trades have been disabled, at least for the moment, until the PUBG Corporation finds a better way to approach this. And I'm actually hoping they do, but it will be very hard to find a way to allow just straight up player-to-player trades without the risk of third parties getting involved, like, oh, I want $5 for this skin. Oh, I'm willing to pay $5 for this skin. Okay, so we're going to go through the service. I'm going to put on the item for an auction, and then I'm going to trade it to you once the transaction is like gone midway and I can see the money is in the third party's account. And then I sell it to you, and the company sees the item has been transferred and they send me the money. Because otherwise it's going to be really hard to do it, and above all else, you can't really get rid of item trading for real world money. Especially when it comes to random items that come from loot boxes. This is the reason why I think we need to get rid of loot boxes. It's really the only way you can get rid of these sort of issues, because, well, who's going to buy an item, any item, let's say it's a skin that somebody else bought for $5, who's going to buy it for $10 if they can just buy it for $5 in the game store? No one will, because they're not idiots. And it will just run these third-party services out of business. And really, it's the only way I can see this from happening. And our last piece of news for today is sticking us with PUBG for a moment, but adds Fortnite to the mix and takes us to the land of mobile gaming. And it seems that Fortnite is massively much more financially successful compared to PUBG on mobile. So Fortnite Mobile managed to bring in $3.7 million US in the first week of being monetized. And PUBG managed to bring only $700,000, which is sort of insane, especially when you take into consideration that Fortnite has been installed only by 3.7 million users, while PUBG for mobile has been installed by 22 million users. That's just insane. Essentially means that Epic, the creators of Fortnite, have made $1 off of each of the people who installed Fortnite for mobile. And you need to remember, it's still not available for Android, while PUBG has only got about 3 cents per each player, and it is available on Android. So once Fortnite comes to mobile, we can only expect this difference to get even larger. And from a report which we discussed a few days earlier, Fortnite is now earning about 1.7 million per day on mobile. Those numbers just don't even compare, because that's 100,000 per day for PUBG and 1.7 million for Fortnite. Fortnite is just getting so much ahead of PUBG that it's totally insane. And we all know that PUBG is well, it's not the daddy, but it's the cool kid of the PUBG genre that managed to bring it into the mainstream. But as I said, I honestly think that Fortnite is just that much more fun because of its quick pace and really, really fun gameplay. And the matches, I feel they take less time than PUBG matches. Though it should be also mentioned that probably a part of the reason that PUBG is earning much less is the fact that Fortnite shares progress between all platforms, between PC, between PlayStation, between mobile. So if you buy something on mobile, you also get access to it on your PC. But when it comes to PUBG, you only get access to it on the version where you bought it. But there's also one more additional layer, which I believe plays a role that many people are underestimating. In Fortnite, you directly buy the items you want. You don't have to go through a loot box process. Just buy what you want. And hopefully, more developers will see that actually selling the items people want rather than loot boxes is more profitable than just selling loot boxes. Because, let's be honest, as long as companies will think that loot boxes are more profitable than directly selling items, they will be implementing loot boxes in their games if they can to even the slightest degree. Because companies, people tend to forget, are about making money. They're not about making the product. The product is the means to the goal, and the goal is to make a profit. Because they need to profit to sustain themselves. So many people tend to forget that because they still think of PC gaming and video game development as sort of this almost a hobby, but so many people's careers and livelihoods are dependent on video game development that they just cannot allow not to make a profit, because otherwise, well, they're not going to have a roof above their head and they're not going to have food in their tummy. Just makes logical sense. You wouldn't be angry at a company like an electric company that they want to make a profit. You just expect that from it. You realize that they need to make a profit, otherwise there will be no electricity. The same way you need to realize if the video gaming companies don't make a profit, there won't be any more video games. It's just common sense. And with that being said, that's going to be it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please consider giving us a thumbs up here on YouTube and subscribing to the channel. If you're watching on Steam, maybe you want to give us an upvote and follow the blog. Either way, be sure to leave a comment and be sure to tune in tomorrow for more gaming news, as we are your source of daily gaming news every single day. Also, little announcement, our co-host Tygergamer is today appearing at Johnny Clearwater's show Hots or Shot today, so be sure to watch that as well and be sure to comment how handsome Tiger is. See you guys later with more gaming content.